to this February 22nd, 2021 City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us in this remote meeting format we're using to Governor Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables the City Council to meet, hear from the community, and take care of keeping everyone safe. Anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials page. Tonight's agenda includes a public forum and a public hearing later on in the evening. If you wish to participate in the public forum portion of the meeting and haven't already done so, please raise your virtual hand now to join the speaker's queue in one of two ways. For those viewing the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the hand icon. For those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. We will continue accepting raised hands until 7:35 p.m. The meeting moderator will unraise or disallow any requests to speak that are made after that deadline. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. For those wishing to testify at the public hearing, please wait to raise your virtual hand until I announce that it is time to do so in my introductory remarks. Requests to speak will be accepted until the first person begins testifying. As a reminder, we are now allowing speakers the option of turning on your video when you're called on to testify. As each person's turn is announced, the meeting moderator will temporarily promote you to panelist status, and you can unmute and turn on your video if you wish. Please be aware that there may be a slightly longer transition between speakers as the moderator makes this all happen. Also, I encourage everyone to use this new increased access in a responsible way. Our intent is simply to be able to see one another's faces as testimony is given. But any misuse of the platform or violation of the council's code of conduct will result in an immediate termination of the speaking privilege. And finally, thank you all for joining us and for your patience as we go through this. As always, feel free to contact any one of us individually or together via email or voicemail if there is testimony you are not able to provide or wish to get to us in a different manner. And as I open this meeting, I'm going to begin with a sober note. While the City Council just earlier this evening had a very encouraging report about the lessons learned as we navigated the pandemic and our emergency operations center and all the staff, the hard news for us as a nation is that we have met the mark of 500,000 deaths due to COVID. And so I'm going to ask you all at the beginning of this meeting to just join me in just a brief moment out of respect and recognition for the losses in our country. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now we have a moment of celebration. We are saying goodbye to Mark Issinger, who has served as our public police auditor since 2009. And we wanted to take this moment. I know Mark has a few words that he wants to share, but before he gets his words in, I'm getting mine in. And so I have a few things that I want to say and share, and I'll give you a chance to speak, Mark. And then if there are counselors who wish to add comments after Mark's had a chance to speak, I want you all to raise your hands and feel free to do that. I think we all know that Mark came on board to take over the police auditor's role, and he took it at a time when it was still relatively new and relatively rocky, but this was a professional who knew what oversight should look like and knew how to make it happen, and proceeded to do just that and create an office and a professionalism that is a model across the country. And we are in his debt for that. He has built relationships, and we will note that he has built relationships both with two police chiefs and with an interim police director, and done so enabled us to continue to move forward on our goal to provide this very effective civilian oversight of our police. He has encouraged his staff, enabled his staff to reach out with public forums to communities that often feel fearful or anxious around approaching the police, and they have been hugely successful and have greatly enhanced our capacity to reach out to the community. And I think really an astonishing credit to Mark's leadership and his team. Leah Pitcher, who is his deputy and will step into the role of police auditor, noted that Mark's reputation for fairness and balance is well earned, and this community has benefited greatly from his experience and knowledge. He has worked tirelessly for this community, overseeing over 4,000 complaints during his tenure. Among his accomplishments is with implementation of the body-worn video that the police auditor's office is now able to review all uses of force and have drastically improved the factual information that's available for reviewing complaints. That he has developed, as I mentioned before, collaborative relationship with 2 police chiefs and an interim chief of police, and he has built very strong relationships in our community and in overseeing this whole very important oversight process. And finally, he has built an extraordinary team. He has been an excellent supervisor, and it is a testimony to his capacity as a leader, that he's built up the people in his team and enabled them to do their best work on behalf of this community. And he leaves us with a very, very strong department. And so, Mark, we have for you a plaque, and it reads, Mark Gisner, in grateful recognition of your years of service to the community and organization as the Eugene Police Officer Auditor 2009 to 2021, and it has a quote, "The time is always right to do what is right." And that's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So thank you very much for your service. It has been a great pleasure to work with you professionally and to know you personally. Thank you so much. And we wish you all of the best in the next adventures of your life. So I turn the floor to you.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. It's thank you for that plaque. 45 years ago, I was throwing garbage before trash bags in curb service, and it's been quite a journey from being in Australia and meeting with the Chinese president to settle a diplomatic dispute involving Taiwan, and finally landing here in Eugene. First and foremost, restoring my faith in municipal government, because the municipal government that I worked at before, I didn't have a lot of faith in. And it's been great working with council. It's the best part of my job is meeting with council members, both present and past. And I could go through everyone that I've ever worked for, but that'll take too much time. Alan always says I talk more when I wear a suit, so I'm not going to talk anymore, but I just want to give heartfelt thanks to everyone. Leah's going to do a great job. I feel somewhat badly I'm leaving the volume of work that she's inherited, but she just does a really great job, and she's waited 10 years for me to leave, and it's time for me to leave. And I just, again, want to thank everyone, and especially the 2 mayors I had the pleasure of working and honor of working for, and all the city council members. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it looks like we have Councillor Evans, then Councillor Semple, then Councillor Groves, all wanting to make comments. Councillor Semple. Oh, Councillor Evans, sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mayor. Mark, I really hate to see you go, man. I think that, you have done an excellent job as our police auditor. You've been fair, you've been even-handed. You have been very responsive. One of the things that I really appreciate about your leadership in this community is the fact that you have listened not only to the city council, but you have really listened to the community and you have responded in kind. Um, Both of us being former Buckeyes, or should say former, we will always be Buckeyes by birth. You have brought some things to this job that have really put your stamp and your signature on it. You will leave this city better than you found it. And I wish you all the luck as you head down to Florida in your retirement. And, sometime before you go, we're going to have to find a place to eat that's actually open so that we can split a meal and, have a really good conversation. I've always enjoyed our conversations, whether it's over coffee or lunch or whatever the case may be. So good luck, Mark, and we will really miss you here. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you. It's been great working with you.
Councilor Semple.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mark. I'm just going to call you Mark. Sorry. It's been wonderful having you part of my staff, and especially when I was a new counselor and was learning fast, I'll put it that way, and would get riled up about something that I needed some information, and you were always willing to meet me because it was great to talk to each other, and we both enjoyed a Coke in bottles. So it's a loss that I don't get to meet with you, and darn COVID, I was council president. Think of all those meetings you and Jennifer and I missed. So I wish you the very best in Florida. Say hello to the sun for us, and just have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm up. Thank you, Mayor. I'm new to the council. I'm not new to the city, and I've known Mark since pretty much the first day he stepped off the bus. I watched the auditors program initially form. I watched it go through a lot of trials and tribulations, but it was when you came on board, Mark, that it really found its purpose, that it became grounded. And the work you did to develop a program that will go far beyond your time here. The legacy you're leaving is not only a fantastic and wonderful thing for our community, but it's something that I hope you are extremely proud of. I've always enjoyed our conversations. I've enjoyed what I considered a friendship with you, and I really appreciated some of the conversations we've had over the years. Here you're going into retirement. It'd be nice to give you a gold watch, but I don't think you're going to need a watch where you're going. So enjoy your time, my friend. You've earned it. And I wish you nothing but the best in life. Thank you for what you've done for us.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, I want to echo the comments that have been said already. I too am sad to see you go, but you've earned this, my friend. You've earned it well. And I look back and I think I may be wrong about this, but I think Alan and I are the only ones still left that were here in the hiring process for you. And as I recall, Alan and I got to be your first direct supervisors. For those watching at home that don't know, the council president, vice president meet with the auditor more frequently as our employees. So we get to do more direct supervision. I think Alan and I have probably had the chance to do that with you more than anybody else. And I have enjoyed all of it. I thank you for your service to our community. I think that you've built a foundation and left some big shoes to fill. I think that as a part of the hiring process, I remember being excited about the fact to get someone of your experience, but I think we got more than we bargained for. And in the proof of that, I would say that police auditing is always going to be, at least to some small degree, if not confrontational, then at least adversarial in some ways. And you've worked really hard to create a level of respect amongst the department and the chief that alleviates that. You're not intended to be friends, but it's a hard thing to do, to build a level of respect so that you can at least be good partners in the process of keeping our police department accountable. And I think you did that exceptionally well. I think you did it so well that I remember serving on police commission that the chief would welcome your recommendations for policy change when an issue wasn't necessarily about the performance of an officer, but maybe even the policy. And that takes a special kind of person to build that level of trust so that the department and everyone involved feels comfortable in saying, yeah, he's right. We maybe should take a look at that. So congratulations to you for building that level of credibility and trust. I remember you bringing up several different policies, including traffic chases. I don't even know the right words for it. High-speed pursuits, where you may even have saved people's lives by having the credibility to have that policy reevaluated. So congratulations, sir. You've earned a rest, and we're very glad to have had your service. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Councilor Zelenka.
Mark, well, what can I say, man? You set the standard. You literally created a model for the country. People from all over the country come to little old Eugene to see how it's done because of the work that you did. So the early years of the police auditor's office were quite contentious, as people have noted, and hard fought to get the system in place. And that's not something we should take for granted. It was something to pull this together and put it in place. When we first hired you, Mike and I were the only ones left, but I remember talking to you and you said, what do you expect out of me? And I said, my goal is for you to keep the police auditor's office off the front page of the paper. And you succeeded in doing that and went well beyond that. So hats off to you, sir. The police auditor's office and the oversight system really does work well. It really is a model. And you have been fair and steady in your execution of the duties of the police auditor in that office and built up an excellent team and staff. And you made a difference. You left a legacy. So I hope you enjoy your retirement knowing that, and good luck. I sure would love to hear what you have to say about the ad hoc committee on police policies findings. Even though you'll be all the way across the country, you're only a Zoom call away. So I'm sure we can accommodate you, even with the time difference. So I'd really love to hear your opinion about that when the time comes, because you never get to leave Eugene. Thanks.
And I have had conversations with Sarah, and I'll help out any way that I can. And we wouldn't have been successful without the unwavering support of mayors and council members throughout this entire process. And that's really important, as I explained to anybody else who asks, or any other city that asks, is there has to be the support from the legislative branch to make this work. So again, I thank you all, and it's been a great ride. Thank you.
I think we're not done yet. I see Councilor Syret.
Yeah, Mark, I just wanted to echo the accolades and the gratitude that you've heard from my colleagues this evening. I share them all, and also wish you a long and relaxing retirement, in spite of the fact that we may put you on a Zoom call or two while you're there. So thanks again. We'll miss you. Great work. Enjoy that retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mark. And I am understanding that you will be in town for a little while and not flying off right away. So
yeah, not early May, at least. Yeah.
So you may well get a chance to have an outdoor meal with Councilor Evans, and there might be a few of us, others of us in in the queue who would relish that opportunity. So we'll all be in touch. Thank you very, very much for all you have done for our community and for all of us as city leadership, what we've learned from you and gained from your leadership. So thank you, and our very best wishes for the next chapter in your life.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, you're muted.
All right, sorry. Now we'll return to the next item on our agenda, which is committee reports and items of interest. And so I am expecting, okay, it looks like I've got a lineup. Councilor Groves, then Councilor Syret, then Councilor Sepple. So Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor. As I was entering office and Councilor Pryor was leaving office, he informed me that I needed to appoint a member of the Sustainability Commission. I then followed up with staff and found out exactly how I needed to do that. And I spent some time giving that serious thought and consideration. Well, at the end of this last week, I have decided to appoint Mike McFarland, who is somebody I've known for a while. Mike is extremely thoughtful. He has a history of environmental protection. He works closely with river keepers. But what I like most about Mike is his intellect. He reads everything. And what I really like especially is that he always listens to more than one side of an issue before he formulates an opinion. And I think having that level of experience that he's had working in many different varieties of occupations, I think will really be a help with the sustainability work. So I'm looking forward to having him on board, and I'm thrilled that he accepted it. The next thing I wanted to point out is one of my council assignments is working on the Elkhog Board of Directors. And I wanted to point out, you've all seen the invite for the awards virtual recognition event that's going to be, let's see, a week from this coming Friday at 6 p.m. Also, in addition to serving on the board, I've now been appointed to the Elkhog Executive Steering Committee, the Budget Committee, and one I'm really excited about, the Cascade West Economic Development District, which is a 4-county economic development district that I think will help us as we start working in that direction. I also wanted to highlight the Human Rights Commission's recommendation on discrimination in our packet this week, working to recognize the homeless as a protected group under our anti-discrimination ordinance. I think this is a really good way to go. And then just the last thing I wanted to flag, like I'm sure all of us are, I'm concerned about the uptick in hate and bias crimes that we are seeing. Actually, that's not correct. I'm outraged by it. And, you know, it's one thing to sit here and talk about it. I want to find tangible steps we can make as a council and as a city to stand against this and to provide for the safety of all of our residents. And to me, this is absolutely unacceptable. And I just want to go on record as saying that. And Mayor, I'm all in on anything that we can come up with tangible to take steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councilor Syret and then Councilor Sepple.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have 3 items. It's possible I might need a second round. I'm going to start with the happy one first. There was a piece in the Register Guard on Valentine's Day, probably can't read very well over the Zoom, about the North Eugene High School theater group creating an original work called Zoomed, where they put on a play that they wrote and their theater teacher directed that was basically a Zoom performance. And I was in theater in high school. And so it particularly spoke to me, and also North Eugene High School is in my ward. So I wanted to call out the North Eugene High School theater group and their awesome creativity and originality in this difficult time. I also wanted to share that I walked a picket line on Friday in Springfield over at the Rawlin at Riverbend Memory Care Facility the workers there have done what's called a card check vote, where they signed cards, over 80% of them, saying that they wanted to form a union and join the Service Employee International's Union 503, which is a statewide union, covers a lot of government workers. And their employer is declining to recognize their vote and their union at this point, and is pushing back and trying to get them to go through a more complicated process. So they voted to go on strike, and their original strike was supposed to end on Friday. And my understanding is they're extending it by 10 days and are going to be moving out into the community. So they may be setting up at more busy intersections to get attention to their plight of hardworking care workers in a memory care facility taking care of people with dementia and Alzheimer's who are having struggles with safe staffing and respect in the workplace. And so I hope folks will pay attention to that fight and show up and support them if they're able. And then I was also going to speak to the hate crimes that have happened in our community. There was a racist tagging in River Road last week, and the River Road Community Organization Social Justice Group organized a very successful rally along River Road that I also participated in on Friday, with about 200 people lined up along the road with Black Lives Matter signs and other signs. And then I think after that, there were 2 more horrifying racist taggings out in Santa Clara and I believe in Whitaker, and absolutely agree with Councilor Groves. We need to take a strong stand against this kind of horrifying activity, figure out what role we can play in combating it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Semple and then Councilor Ye.
Thank you, Mayor. Today is exactly the 6-month anniversary of me being in a car getting T-boned by a drunk driver. It's been really, really hard. I'm doing so much better, but brain injuries are slow to heal. So I read every single email and I think about them. But if you haven't heard from me, it's not because I don't care and I'm not thinking about you. So I appreciate your patience and understanding. Mackenzie Watershed Council met and we had a presentation. One seems to be the topic of the year about recovery from the holiday fire, doing a lot of great work and making really big strides, although it's heartbreaking. The Sustainability Commission met and approved they have amazingly hardworking work groups in the commission. The Air Quality Committee's recommendations for helping get our air better. Wood stoves are the worst, and trains and industrial pollution. They also approved the CAP 2.0 funding strategy recommendations, and they came up with 11 ideas for funding. I'm so impressed and can't wait for us to all talk about them. And lastly, they passed a resolution recommending the Eugene City Council support efforts to transition to 100% renewable electricity by 2035 at local, state, and national levels. And last, I want to add my voice to the outrage of hate crime in general and the recent outburst of hate. This is a city of kindness, and hate has no home here. If you are filled with hate, you are free to leave. You might be happier somewhere else, and we would be happier without you. Everybody, let's be kind. Let's grow up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ye, and then Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I also have 3 things, and I might not be as fast as Claire, but I will try. First, I want to thank my colleagues for, speaking out about the recent hate crimes. Symbols of hate and hate speech are harmful because they demean, they intimidate, they try to silence people. It's yet just another reminder to people of color that they don't belong. And that's why this council needs to always be thinking about respect and inclusion. And I'm so encouraged to hear what my colleagues have said today. We cannot stop thinking about it because people of color don't have that option to stop thinking about it. We need to be intentional about equity and inclusion frequently in our discussions, and we need to look at all of our actions and decisions through that lens. Secondly, I just want to remind everyone that we are currently accepting applications for boards and commissions. There are currently seats on 7 different council advisory bodies, and applications are due on March 12th. Thanks to the reopening of the police commission selection process, that commission has now has more diversity of perspectives and lived experiences than it has in the past, and it's really great to be a part of that group. But we have that same opportunity now for these 7 other groups. And if anyone has questions or wants to talk about their application, please email me. I would be happy to connect with you, as I'm sure other counselors would be as well. I have a little more time. Lastly, I just wanted to do an update on the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission. The staff recently met with city staff to collaborate on the CAP, including our RNG facility, the Poplar Farm, recycled water, and riparian protection, which are all really exciting programs in our community. We also learned of the results of a study done a few years ago that compared our energy efficiency of our aeration basins with 47 other agencies, and we were found to be the most energy efficient, which was really encouraging. And really highlights how great our staff is doing in their work and the decisions that they're making. One last thing, staff has also sent a letter of support for HB 2344, or otherwise known as the Wipes Bill. It seeks to add labeling to wipes commonly known as flushables, but are not actually designed to be flushed. These wipes cause sewer overflows, pump station clogs, and other system failures. It is kind of funny, but it's actually a serious problem. So whether the bill passes or not, please do not flush these wipes and help us keep our sewer systems running smoothly.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Clark and then Councillor Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to add my voice to my colleagues' outrage over the recent uptick in hate crimes, especially those we've seen in River Road and Santa Clara. I'm sickened by what I saw. And while I understand calls for and the desire by many for us to create another resolution on this, I think I'm much more like Randy in his comments on this. I'd like to call for a work session, a poll. I see Beth is on here. If it's necessary, I'd be willing to bet enough head nods would probably give it the go ahead. But I'd like to have a work session where we talk about what are some of our options to address this adequately. That level of hate crime is in fact a crime, and I don't think we recognize all the aspects of it. That level of intimidation and menacing at someone's home is absolutely unacceptable in our community. And we need to do something about it rather than just talk about it, in my opinion. So I'd call for us to have a work session to how we might alter ordinance to maybe have a little bit heavier of a penalty for people who would intentionally inflict hate crimes like that on members of our community, and do so with absolute intention for menacing and intimidation. That's absolutely not acceptable here. And we need to act that way, I think, and address what we might do in response. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keating, and then Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mayor. Adding my voice to the choir to condemn hate crime and racism in our community. Racism is a public health crisis, and I hope that we can either affirm that and or take direct action to address that. So thank you, Councillor Clark, for calling for a work session. It's greatly appreciated, and thank you, Councillor Semple, for your passionate words. I concur. Houselessness is a humanitarian crisis that we all recognize. And I want to thank Linda Carnine, Brother Charlie, Wayne Chaplin for inviting myself, Councillor Groves, and Councillor Ye to a breakfast Saturday morning, every Saturday at Washington Jefferson Park for the unhoused. We heard firsthand the pangs of houselessness and recognized some real needs and gaps, while also recognizing that there are wash stations, there's refuse, and there are sanitation stations, but our most vulnerable community members throughout our community and in Washington Jefferson Park continue to need a lift up, and I wanted to highlight that work. So thank you for the invitation, and through my role on the Human Services Commission and on this council, I look forward to being a helpful partner. It was suggested that we revive the Vulnerable Populations Working Group. So I'd like to explore that as well. I was elected Vice Chair of the Human Services Commission. Thank you, Councillor Syrett, for your nomination. Commissioner Farr was elected Chair. And also thank you, Councillor Syrett, for drawing attention to the Rollin in Springfield. Speaking of our most vulnerable populations, the amount of folks who've passed away at that senior care facility in such a short time, not all COVID, but largely due to a lack of staffing and support for the workforce, is deplorable. And so I stand with Councillor Syrett and with the workers at the Rollin in Springfield. Folks have asked me what this lapel pin says. It may be a little difficult to see on Zoom, but it says union yes. And I am a staunch supporter of workers' ability to collectively bargain and fight and advocate for a living wage. And finally, thank you to Councillor Evans for his testimony today on Senate Bill 554. This proposed bill would authorize city, county, metropolitan service districts, school districts, colleges, and universities to adopt ordinance or policy limiting the possession of firearms in a public place. I stand with you, Councillor Evans, in support of that bill, and thank you for your passionate and empowering testimony.
Thank you, Councillor Evans, and then Councillor Zelenka.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very brief. Thank you for that support and that shout out, Matt. You kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but that's okay. So you did a good job at summarizing my testimony this morning in support of Senate Bill 554. I'd like to quote Doc Rivers, who was the head coach of the LA Clippers and now is the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. And he said something this summer that really brought home this issue of racism and discrimination to me and to other people in my family. And my son served in Afghanistan. He did a tour of duty over there. We prayed every day that he'd be safe and be brought home safe, and he has been. My father fought in World War II for this country. One of my uncles fought in World War I. I think my whole family has fought in just about every war that this country has had. But what Doc Rivers said is so very true. We love America. We love our country. The problem is our country doesn't love us. We love Eugene, but Eugene doesn't always show us that same love. So I want you to think about that. Not only my council colleagues, but other people who are listening out there. If we tolerate the kind of behavior that has been going on lately, some of it is reported, a lot of it is not reported. Some of the things I hear are pretty horrific, but people don't want to come forward for a variety of reasons. Lack of trust in the government, lack of trust in authority, period. there's a lot of fear out there. And so, again, I say, we love our community, but our community doesn't always love us.
Thank you. Councilor Zelenka.
Well said, Greg. I totally endorse that sentiment. And I would like to add my voice to those condemning the hate and racism that we've seen in our community lately. And we need to increase our efforts to stop these despicable actions. A work session is a good place to start. I endorse that. And make sure people know that it's not welcome here. And we need to figure out how to make sure that it's not welcome here and stopped. As Greg said, there's so much more that I hear about that we never hear about in the media and other places that's going on in our city about racism and hate that it's disturbing. Also want to thank Greg for his support of SB 554, add me to that support list. And then as far as things going on, reiterate what Jennifer said, boards and commissions applications, March 12th, please. You can go on the website, type in boards and commissions, you can look up all the positions, see what they do. But March 12th is the deadline. So please apply. We like to have a robust and diverse applicant pool for all the different commissions. For the police commission, which I sit on with Jennifer, we've been going over, most recently our last meeting, camping and also field force policy. We've also just recently finished off looking at policies of the police department on handcuffing and control holds and impact weapons, pepper balls, public assemblies and demonstrations, civil disobedience, and we're keep rolling through all those different policies. So what that means is we actually sit down and take them apart word by word and see if they're still up to date and if they need to be modified, and ask tough questions of the chief and his staff. So we're moving forward on all those things. We're having a retreat coming up in sometime in March to move forward with that. I also met with the Fairmont Neighbors Association general meeting by Zoom, and the Laurel Valley Center citizens meeting by Zoom, and they're both alive and well with lots of participation.
Thank you all very much, and I am so proud to be your colleague and to hear your comments about your commitment to acting, to condemn the hateful acts and the unconscionable threats and intimidation that are happening in our community, and look forward to working with you. I think a work session is a good idea, and I know we're going to hear some testimony tonight, so I think it'll be good to explore and look at what we do through our hate and bias crime reporting and the follow-up to that reporting, and how we might build an even stronger system there. So thank you all for those comments. I also want to thank you for the support for the Rollin strikers. There was in their kickoff, these are the frontline workers with the most vulnerable people during a pandemic, and Representative Wilde was at the kickoff panel, and he said unionized facilities that are unionized have a 30% lower mortality rate among their patients. I mean, it makes a difference, those working conditions for those workers. So they should be supported. They deserve our support, and they're doing important work. And then finally, I just want to mention, I sit on the Poverty and Homelessness Board. The county has actually done some really great things on their website. And so they do have a very quick link for rent assistance. The county has overall acquired about $15 million that can be used towards rent assistance through federal CARES relief funds, and Lane County.gov/rent, and citizens can find out more about what's available and how it's available on that website. And they have also consolidated on their website the work that the city is doing and the work that the county is doing in terms of sheltering the homeless, who's doing what, how many units are available. So it's a nice, speaking to Councilor Keating's question, there are a lot of moving pieces there, and we're doing a better and better job of coordinating what the city and the county are doing together. So that's on a positive note. And one other piece I just wanted to mention, I had the pleasure of attending a number of the Black History Month sessions hosted by the University of Oregon, and I will say I had several epiphanies, realizing how much history I don't know, how many stories I don't know, how much there is to be learned, and what a resource we have actually at the University of Oregon, among other places, in terms of really getting a better handle on the role that Black Americans have played in building this country, which I think is overlooked. And this is a wonderful, of the many things that we can do as a community, it is raising up our awareness and appreciation for the work of all of the different communities who have created the community we call Eugene. So with that, I think probably the people who are waiting to speak are pretty ready to speak. So I will move into the public. Oh, wait, no, we have a consent calendar. Can I have a motion?
So I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you very much. And now we'll move into the public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues, except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. When it is your turn, the moderator will announce your name and promote you to panelist status. Please state your name clearly, and for Eugene residents, your ward, if known, before beginning your comments. Again, each person will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. A yellow light will come on when you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light and beep indicate the end of your 2.5 minutes. When your time has concluded, the moderator will demote you back to attendee status and move on to the next speaker. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2.5 minute mark. Also, a reminder that the public forum is limited to 90 minutes total, and I see that we have 33 people who have raised their hands to speak. So if the number of speaker, that we might just make enough time for 33 minutes, 33 speakers, but only if a few of you don't use your whole allotted time. So I would just encourage you to be as concise as you can, so as many people as possible have the opportunity to be heard. And with that, I will turn it over to Councilor Keating, did you have a question?
I did, Mayor. I recognize that you asked participants to reference their ward if known. I've been keeping notes on every speaker, and I would love to follow up with Ward 2 residents, but I recognize not everyone knows their ward. May I request that if someone doesn't know their ward, they at least identify geographically what part of town, North Eugene, South Eugene, West Eugene, et cetera. It would be helpful for those of us making notes and following up accordingly.
Good idea. Good idea. Okay, thank you very much. I'll now turn it over to the moderator to start the forum.
Thank you, Mayor. So first we have Avery Temple, followed by Sarah Lamont. Avery, please unmute.
Hello, my name is Avery Temple and I pay rent in Ward 3 and I reside on unceded Kalapuya territory. I wanted to begin by saying thank you to Councilors Ye, Surratt, Keating, Semple, and Mayor Venice for their statements regarding the last public forum walking away from Northwest Natural negotiations. And Councilor Evans, thank you for your statement as well. I'm looking forward to seeing you become an outspoken member of this fight. On this issue, I agree with you all. Northwest Naturals is attempting to hold City Council hostage with threats of bad PR. They're force-feeding us lies about so-called benefits of fracked gas. They tell us that landfills and methanes from outdated, contaminated industries like factory farms will provide us, quote unquote, clean energy. The reality is that expanding these systems full of toxins will end up in my community's backyard. They will poison my neighbors, my loved ones, and it will lead to the entirely preventable premature death of my fellow Black, brown, and low-income siblings. We can never forget that they are a large corporate polluter determined to make a profit at the expense of Black, Indigenous, and POC lives. They believe that they can wreak havoc on the land, water, and air and leave our people in ruins and get away with it. That is why we, Fossil Free Eugene, need you all to make the right choice. Honor your commitments to the Climate Action Plan. Take the next necessary step and ban all new gas infrastructure. They have already shown us who they are, and if history has taught us anything, they will never change so long as they can profit off of our early deaths. Similarly, I want to add that divesting from fossil fuels is but one step towards a just society. You all mentioned the hate crimes going on and also the violence that exists in our community. And I believe that to address this fully, we need to divest from the police and move towards racial justice at the root and begin investing at housing and in housing and education and in care instead of violence, punishment, and disposability. Stop the sweeps and defund EPD. Thank you.
Thank you, Avery. Next is Sarah Lamog, followed by Maisie Goodpasture.
Good evening, Council. This is Sarah Lamog, Ward 5. As we near the end of Black History Month, I ask you all, what have you done to promote anti-racism? What tangible actions have you taken to actually stand up against white supremacy? I ask this because of the recent spike in hate crimes across our community, including but not limited to the graffiti and noose that was left at a neighbor's property along River Road. Incensed by this incident, I tuned into the Human Rights Commission meeting on Tuesday, February 16th. I became hopeful hearing committee members ask pointed questions of EPD liaison Captain Sean Adams. But I became alarmed when I heard Captain Adams question if another recent hate crime, which involved spray-painted swastikas on a parked car at the Safeway off Coburg Road, was, and I quote, anti-Jewish. Let me repeat that for emphasis. Captain Adams, the EPD liaison to the Human Rights Commission, was unsure if a hate crime involving swastikas was anti-Jewish. Council, when an EPD captain can't connect the dots of a hate crime, and a sitting member of your council publicly cozies up to far-right agitators, you've got a powder keg situation right in front of you. I urge you to take the following preventative measures in addition to the reactionary call for a work session. 1, each counselor should hold a public forum to listen to your constituents about the racism and far-right extremism that exists in your ward. 2, conduct a formal third-party investigation into EPD to ensure that no one from the force has ties to dangerous far-right leanings, the same leanings that cleared the way to the violence we saw at the Capitol on January 6th. Looking ahead, QAnon's March 4th inauguration is just around the corner. Our community deserves not only to be prepared, but kept safe from violent insurrectionists who are hiding in plain sight. 3, walk away from all negotiations from Northwest Natural and openly support the Fossil Free Eugene campaign. Lastly, I leave you with a petition comment. Quote, it's time for Eugene to clean up its act. The city has gone downhill for years. Do your jobs and fix it and get the racists out of here. I yield back my time.
Thank you, Sarah. Next is Maisie Goodpasture, followed by Cascadia Wildlands.
Thank you, City Council, for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Maisie Goodpasture. I'm a freshman at Sheldon High School, and I'm a part of the Sheldon Climate Justice team. I'm here tonight to talk to you about fossil fuels in Eugene. I have asthma. You may be thinking, what does asthma have to do with anything? But it has everything to do with that. All of the CO2 in the air is making it very difficult for people like me to breathe outside. I used to take my dogs on walks every day without any problems with my breathing, but now I have to carry my inhaler with me at all times because on multiple occasions I felt like I couldn't breathe because of the air quality. I have other things to worry about. My breathing should not be one of them. The CRO bill was passed in 2014, and to my knowledge, we have not been able to accomplish any step toward our goal to reduce carbon in our atmosphere. I shouldn't be here today asking you to do something about this because you should have done something years ago. Things will only get worse if we don't put in the work and try to make a change. The average electric car costs $50,000 to $65,000, and my family, for one, can't afford a car of that price. I don't think the majority of middle-class Eugene citizens can afford one either. So people are forced into a situation where we are making it worse and not better because we simply can't afford an electric car, which is much better for the environment. I believe that electric cars should be accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy that feel like they're making a difference because they have enough money for electric car while most of the citizens are still driving old fuel-burning cars. We should also make public transportation electric as well because trains and buses burn and take a lot of fossil fuels. Also, many Eugene citizens use buses and they drive around the city all day, which is putting a lot of fossil fuels into the air. Climate change is real. The power outages in Texas are proof of that, as well as the ice melting in Antarctica. We have to do something before it's too late. You have the power to make a difference, so please do something about the economical impact of fossil fuels in Eugene. Please let me go outside and not risk having an asthma attack. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Maisie. Next is Cascadia Wildlands, followed by 350 Eugene.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hello, Mayor Venice, City Councilors, and City Manager Maderi. As many of you now know, my name is Dylan Plummer. I'm the grassroots organizer with Cascadia Wildlands and a resident of Ward 2. I'm also a board member with the Amazon Neighborhood Association. As you can imagine, I'm here tonight to testify on behalf of the Fossil Free Eugene campaign in our efforts to transition Eugene to 100% renewable energy. As a former union organizer and member, protecting jobs and maintaining worker power is deeply important to me, and it is also central to our coalition's efforts. As such, I want to say thank you for your strong statements in solidarity with the workers at the Rollin. Because of our deep commitment to worker justice, we support a just transition framework in our coalition to protect frontline workers and community members in the transition away from polluting fossil fuels. So I want to start by applauding Council for your decision to allow the current franchise agreement with Northwest Natural to lapse and to stand up to the Frack Gas Corporation in the face of their intimidation tactics. We cannot afford to sign on to an agreement that holds our climate goals hostage for another decade, and so I thank you. Now is the time to show them that our city means business when it comes to climate action. Now is the time to show that we mean business when we talk about a just transition away from fossil fuels. Now is the time to show Northwest Natural that we will not be pushed around, intimidated, or lied to, as the fossil fuel industry is wont to do. The people are on your side. Recent internal polling from the Oregon League of Conservation voters, which I shared with you last week, shows that 56% of Oregonians support transitioning away from frack gas to renewable energy, with 30% strongly supporting. This number is likely significantly higher in Eugene, a city long known for its progressive environmental politics. Transitioning to renewable energy is just common sense. As such, I'm asking you to introduce a work session poll to discuss a ban on new infrastructure and an ordinance mandating all utilities in the city to meet 100% renewable energy benchmarks by 2030. Our small city is not insignificant, far from that. We have the opportunity to lead the state and implement action to avert the worst impacts of climate change while forging a path forward for cities throughout Oregon. And so I ask, what are we waiting for? Let's build our local economy, create good paying union jobs, and protect our community's health and safety and our planet's climate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dylan. Next is 350 Eugene, followed by Wing Z. Please unmute.
Can't hear you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm Patty Hine. I volunteer with 350 Eugene and live in the county. And I'm also grateful to the councilors and mayor for insisting that the franchise agreement includes a carbon reduction component. Clearly, that is necessary. The good news is fossil fuel companies are no longer denying that their products and services harm the planet and destabilize climate. But they do the next thing, which is delay, like with these negotiations. They disinform or greenwash, and they deflect. Look over here, they're taking away your freedom and raising your prices. For example, the gas industry's focus on renewable natural gas, or RNG, biomethane or biogas, It's not going to take the place of their fossil gas. Oregon Department of Energy reported RNG cannot meet even 1/5 of the capacity of the current natural gas consumption in our state. It sounds good though, it's renewable. We also can't pin our hopes on hydrogen going into the gas pipes until the problem of incompatible steel pipe infrastructure is resolved. And hydrogen is not forecast to be cost competitive for 9 more years. The truth is, the clean energy revolution is well underway. Experience is showing, and it costs less. Consumers, customers, industry, they save money. The energy efficiency cost savings for customers that come from improved heating, cooling, and weatherization can save over $100 million a year, which is especially important for energy-burdened low-income households. The skills of the workers in the gas industry apply well to the new energy systems and economy and will be living wages and union jobs. The UCLA study found that electrifying buildings over 25 years in California create 8 times the number of jobs that will be lost in the gas industry. Will Northwest Natural put its capital and skills to work on something that doesn't degrade the planet? Or will it make promises it can't keep, delay taking real action, and using time we don't have? We're counting on you, Council, to send the signal that a gas utility doesn't dictate community climate policy, and that this step is just part of the plan to decarbonize here in Eugene. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, Patty. Next is Wang Z, followed by Jeffrey Sina.
Hi, my name is Xia Wang, so it's pronounced Xia and Wang, okay? I would say this again, all you can hear me as a woman of color talking about the racism issue publicly in city council because I didn't grow up through generational racial oppression trauma in this country. So I still have initial courage to speak up in public. It's one of the main reasons you don't hear Black people who experienced hate crimes last week to feel safe to speak up their experience here. Last year, in less than 1 month, my front yard signs were stolen first, then defaced by bright red paint. Then a white neighbor left a handwritten threatening poster in my front yard publicly. Until the 3rd time, I finally admitted I was targeted in this white neighborhood because only my yard signs were attacked again and again. Since then, I rarely take a walk in this neighborhood. As a licensed mental health counselor, I'm highly aware of the symptoms of unsafe and distrust issues, restless, hard to focus and fall asleep, coming from racial battle fatigue. Racism is a driving force of the social determination of health, and it's a barrier to mental health equity. Eugene must declare racism as a public health crisis now. Salem City declared racism as a public health crisis back in January. What is the procedure and the deadline to declare racism as a public health crisis in Eugene? This is urgent. Here are 2 comments from Councillor Clark's resignation petition. 1, white supremacy has no place in our world. No one's skin makes them better or lesser in any way. 2, this is not the type of representation of our community needs. It's dangerous and shameful. He needs to resign. Councillor Clark, you said you are open to learn in the last meeting. I have never gotten any responses from the email I sent to you. What is the barrier for you to reach out to us, have an open conversation and listen? We still have not heard any clear investigation from EPD Chief Skinner if there was any EPD officers at DC on January 6th. Our community deserves safety insurance. Again, EPD needs an official investigation and provides a clear report. If EPD cannot provide this basic transparency to ensure community safety, the fund needs to be defunded. Lastly, I firmly support the Fossil Fuel-Free Eugene campaign, and I urge Eugene City Council publicly support it as well. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Zaya. Next is Jeffrey, followed by Ben Christensen.
Hi, I'm Jeff Sina, and I live in Ward 1, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish my city councilor, Emily Semple, continuing progress in her recovery. I'd like to speak about the negotiations ongoing with the euphemistically named fossil fuel company, Northwest Natural. I'm a chemistry professor at the University of Oregon, And this term, I'm teaching a course in the Clark Honors College, which really ought not to be a necessary course, namely the science of climate change. If this were 1991 rather than 2021, I could perhaps consider the continuing expansion of methane infrastructure as a transitional fuel. In 2021, I think the imperative for us is to stop completely creating new fossil fuel infrastructure. The example that comes to mind comes from a wonderful book by Jared Diamond called Collapse. In it, he investigates several different societies that have failed. One in particular that sticks in my mind is the Easter Island civilization, which led itself to collapse and failure simply by continuing to do the same things that it had always done, namely cutting down trees. Unfortunately, when you live on an island and you cut down the last tree, you have no more forests. And it strikes me that if we follow a business as usual strategy of expanding fossil fuel infrastructure in our community, we will be just simply blindly doing what we have done in the past, and it's not a healthy course of action. Until the recent wildfires, I comforted myself with the belief that while climate change is serious and problematic, I was lucky to live in a community that would remain unaffected by it. That's no longer the case. So please say no to the further expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Next is Ben Christensen, followed by Olivia. Ben, please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In the past week, we have seen 3 hate crimes, 2 on River Road and 1 in the Whitaker. They all happened in Ward 7. The second one was just across the street from Ward 5. This has become all too common in Eugene. I heard the city council speech a few weeks ago, and the problem is it did nothing to actually address the issues of white supremacy. It made the city council stance clear, but it didn't set forth any action that would address the issues at hand. If the city council is going to represent the people of Eugene, we deserve to have a real set of proposals to address the issue of white supremacy and create real consequences for people who traffic in this kind of hate. And the diversion of funds from systems that perpetuate inequality to community resources that would benefit our BIPOC community. The first step to do this is to declare racism a public health crisis, like Salem did back in January, and to use this formal declaration to divert money from the police budget and redirect funds. Councilor Clark, don't think I forgot about you after the last public statement where you claimed to be a principled conservative Republican. There are many principled conservative Republicans that I genuinely respect. You are not one of them, and here is why. You've made many comments where you claim that I've lied about you in the past. This is simply not true. You dog whistled in the public comments in the city council. This is the behavior of the former, not the latter. You refused to denounce white supremacy on 2 different occasions. This, again, is the behavior of the former, not the latter. And these are just a couple of examples of the things you've done in the past during your time on the city council. In the last comment, you said you want to do better. The issue is, I don't think you know or you have any idea what this actually means. As far as I know, you've made no attempts to reach out to any of the people that I know that do this type of work. If you're serious, you have my contact information. You know how to contact me. The Eugene police still have not released any information as to the investigations that have been done to make sure that none of the officers were involved in the January 6th insurrection attempt. The chief simply saying, I'm not aware of any, is not good enough. The people of Eugene deserve a full accountability, as we know that the Eugene Police Department has a problem with transparency. I firmly support the Fossil Free Eugene campaign, and I urge the City Council also support their efforts publicly. And lastly, 2 comments from the petition calling for Councilor Clark's resignation. Long overdue for Mr. Clark to vacate that seat. And Councilor Clark does not represent me or my family. Ward 5 needs change now. Thank you. I yield back the rest of my time.
Thank you, Ben. Next is Olivia, followed by Nicholas Tippins.
Thank you for providing this opportunity for public testimony. My name is Olivia. I'm a 17-year-old student at Sheldon High School, and I live in Ward 4. I remember in 2019, a headline saying we had, quote, 18 months left to save the planet. While I never researched the validity of that statement, what remained stuck in my head was that that window ended on my 17th birthday. The idea that the world would be condemned before I even had the chance to experience it has plagued my mind ever since. Today, I am advocating for a just transition to renewable energy. Not only is transitioning to renewables imperative to meeting our climate goals, it will also provide benefits for our local economy, public health and safety, and mark a first step for Eugene to combat environmental injustice in our community. I also note that Northwest Natural intends to impose any additional costs on customers. The agreement should not permit Northwest Natural to avoid accountability for its role in the climate crisis, and therefore should not allow the corporation to impose additional cost burdens on customers. We urge you to reimagine Eugene's energy future and to make our city the example of climate leadership that it should be. It is imperative that the city signal its dedication to this effort by passing ordinances to ban the construction of new gas infrastructure in the city and to ban the use of cash incentives by the corporation, which compels residents to install gas appliances. This is an opportunity for Eugene to be a leader among municipalities and to pave the way for others to follow our leadership. We call on you to use this opportunity to start a process to completely decarbonize our city and equitably move our community into the new decade. It is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the best available science. As such, in addition to renegotiating our franchise agreement with Northwest Natural and banning the construction of new gas infrastructure, I am requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030 and levy a fee on Northwest Natural to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities away from fracked gas and towards electric appliances. Northwest Natural can no longer be allowed to hold our city's climate policy hostage. Thank you for your consideration and for your tireless work on behalf of our community.
Thank you, Olivia. Next is Nicholas Tippins, followed by Sylvia.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Tippins. I'm a small business owner and I live in Ward 8. And I apologize for the lighting, my lamp went out. First, I thank the councilors and Mayor Vinnis who spoke out against the recent hate crimes. I hope that council will indeed form a commission and will take bold and concrete actions to ensure that our Black and Brown neighbors are safe and welcomed in our community, and that hate crimes are prosecuted appropriately. The suggestions to hold a community listening session and thoroughly investigate EPD are excellent ones. I'm also here to testify in support of the Fossil Free Eugene campaign, which is, as you know, a broad coalition working for a just transition to 100% renewable energy in Eugene. I want to thank you first for walking away from the Northwest Natural franchise negotiations as they currently stand. Doing so is an act of accountability to your constituents as well as to the environment and future generations, and I applaud you for it. To be clear, I think having some kind of franchise agreement eventually is advantageous and necessary, but only on terms that make it possible to meet our climate reduction goals. Thus, before renewing negotiations with the corporation, I encourage you to pass ordinances to restrict the construction of new gas infrastructure and disallow cash incentives to switch homes from electric to polluting gas appliances. On that note, a friend of mine actually just today got a disingenuous mailer from Northwest Natural encouraging people to, quote, reduce their carbon footprint by switching to natural gas, i.e. fracked gas appliances, and offering cash incentives to do so. As we all know, this claim is a flat-out lie. Every major study on meeting our climate goals, from the United Nations to the Obama administration to the Oregon Global Warming Commissions, calls for running buildings on clean electricity rather than fossil fuels, and combining that efficiency with efficiency to reduce energy waste and lower costs for building owners and the overall system. The city should not, to another point, the city should not agree to a limit on the carbon reduction fee that does not permit electrification efforts as Northwest Natural has proposed. Finally, I also encourage you to stop the unconscionable sweeps of houseless camps during a pandemic against CDC guidelines and to provide, at the very least, adequate trash disposal and sanitization facilities for all of our neighbors living on the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Next is Sylvia, followed by Maddie Bloom.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Tittington and I live in Ward 1 on stolen Kalapuya land. I'm a healthcare worker and a member of SEIU 503 because of my position at Addis Home Care, a union of workers across many professional fields. I'm here this evening to testify in support of the Fossil Free Eugene campaign. First, I want to thank you for walking away from the negotiations with Northwest Natural as they currently stand and for allowing the current franchise agreement to lapse. I and many others appreciate this act of accountability to your constituents and the CRO goals. I'm also concerned about the health of our community and our planet should we continue to use fossil fuels unabated. The science is clear about what will happen if we do not urgently and dramatically reduce our fossil fuel consumption. Repowering our buildings to run on clean, high-efficiency electric appliances instead of gas is a way to directly improve the health of our community and reduce our carbon footprint. Thanks to Oregon's abundance of clean, low-cost electricity, swapping out gas appliances for electric ones will reduce the average household's climate footprint by 50%, the equivalent of completely giving up on your car. In light of this, I applaud your decision to stand up to Northwest Natural's intimidation tactics by allowing the franchise agreement to expire in May. However, now I urge you to not resume negotiations until you have passed an ordinance to restrict the construction of new gas infrastructure and disallow cash incentives to switch homes from electric to polluting gas. Don't let Northwest Natural tell you this will be bad for the economy. Studies say quite the opposite. A study by UCLA found that electrifying California's buildings over the next 25 years would create 8 times as many jobs as may be lost in the gas industry, supporting an additional 100,000 full-time jobs in construction, manufacturing, and the energy sector each year. Oregon would expect to see a proportional gain in jobs. I support the city's position that the new franchise agreement should not be granted without carbon-related terms. This is an opportunity for Eugene to be a leader among municipalities in utilizing its authority over its right-of-ways, and Eugene should seize the opportunity to pave the way forward for other municipalities to follow its leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Next is Maddie, followed by Jim New.
Hello, my name is Madeline Blum. I'm a resident of Ward 3 occupying Kalapuya land. I was born and raised in Eugene and my family has lived here for 28 years. Now I go to college in New Jersey. I pride myself on being the only person at my school from Eugene, Oregon, from the Green State, from a place filled with people who deeply love and care for our earth. When I read about the ways Eugene is failing to live up to those standards, it hurts. Homes and buildings cause about 1/3 of Oregon's climate pollution. This comes from gas burned in household appliances. Repowering our buildings to run on clean, efficient electric appliances instead is key to stopping the worst impacts of climate change. I want to thank you for standing up to Northwest Natural and allowing for the franchise to lapse this coming May. Before renewing negotiations, I ask that you pass ordinances to restrict the construction of new gas infrastructure and disallow cash incentives to switch homes from electric to gas appliances. I want my hometown that I love so much to seize this moment and act on climate change by transitioning from fracked gas to renewable energy because we know it is better for people's health, marginalized groups, the economy, and the planet. Before I would go, I would also like to ask that the city stop the evictions of unhoused people in Eugene, as it is essential that we do everything we can to protect the most vulnerable populations during the COVID-19 pandemic and not put them at further risk. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madeline. Next is Jim, followed by Brian Stewart.
Mayor, city councilors, and city manager, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Jim New. I live in Ward 7. Northwest Gas is treading water as fast as possible in order to stay afloat in the age of renewable energy. Renewable natural gas sources are from concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, landfills, and wastewater treatment plants. Potential for meeting the state of Oregon's demand for natural gas with renewable feedstocks or resource quantities, according to the 2018 Oregon Department of Energy Biogas and RNG Renewable Natural Gas Inventory, is 10 to 20%. This leaves 80 to 90% of Northwest gas supply coming from Canadian and out-of-state frack gas. David Anderson, the president and CEO of Northwest Gas, states the future of the gas utility is through renewable natural gas. However, methane generators such as CAFOs, landfills, and organic waste should be sourced, reduced, and eliminated, not relied upon by the utility to keep its shareholders profitable. The Northwest Gas Renewable Program needs to be prevented before becoming a carbon emitter, not another means for the utility to stay afloat by charging its customers for gaslighting green energy. I thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you, Jim. Next is Brian Stewart, followed by Sophia Trotter. Brian, please unmute.
Thank you, Mayor Venice and City Council. My name is Brian Stewart. I'm the founder of Electrify Now. Our mission is to educate and advocate for renewable energy and electrification of our homes and transportation as the most effective measures to combat the climate crisis. We have formed a coalition of over 30 organizations in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest called the Electrify Coalition. And that includes builders, building engineers, HVAC installers, plumbers, community organizations, faith-based organizations, solar installers, and other energy-focused nonprofits. We work together to promote electrification and support policies that reduce carbon emissions, provide good jobs, and reduce indoor and outdoor air pollution in our state. As you know, and you've heard this evening, homes and buildings produce over a third of the state's climate pollution. Many of these emissions come from natural gas we burn to heat our homes and heat our water. It's now completely possible to eliminate those emissions altogether by converting to high efficiency electric appliances that are powered by renewable energy. This is not a compromise. These appliances perform better than gas appliances. They're generally lower cost to operate and provide the exact functions that people need and desire. Many studies have shown that all electric new construction is in fact lower cost than building with gas. Renewable gas may have a role to play in our state, but the idea that it could eliminate emissions from our buildings is far from the truth. The Oregon Department of Energy has estimated that only small reductions of emissions could be made in the very best scenarios from this technology. The natural gas makes vague promises about this technology, but at the same time, they actively fight efforts to make gas appliances more energy efficient. Due to the pressure the gas industry has applied to the U.S. Department of Energy, for example, minimum efficiency standards for gas furnaces have increased by only 2% in nearly 30 years, while electric appliances have seen dramatic improvements in energy efficiency. The most important place to intervene now is to eliminate construction of new homes and buildings with gas infrastructure. You have an opportunity to make a significant impact on our climate problems and also ensure a safer, cleaner, and more prosperous community by supporting the request of the Fossil Free Eugene Coalition. Thank you in advance for working to help create a safer and healthier and more prosperous Oregon and allowing other cities hopefully to take similar steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Sophia, followed by Marshall Chad Dannon.
Hello, my name is Sophia Trotter, and I'm speaking as a part of the Fossil Free Eugene Coalition and as a student and worker downtown in Eugene, living in Ward 2 temporarily, which resides on Kalapuya land. First, thank you for standing up to Northwest Natural in the face of their intimidation tactics and allowing for the franchise to lapse this coming May. Northwest Natural PR campaign is trying to convince the public that renewable natural gas deters the need for electrification and that the switch would cause significant job loss. Firstly, renewable natural gas is not as low carbon as the industry claims, and its local air and water impacts are concentrated in vulnerable communities. Even if it were low carbon and equitable, there simply is not enough of it to substitute for more than a small fraction of natural gas. And even if it were low carbon, equitable, and abundant, it still wouldn't be an excuse to expand natural gas infrastructure or slow electrification. In addition, renewable natural gas is extremely costly compared to alternatives. the California Energy Commission has done a report on deep decarbonization and a recently updated extensive report on the future of the state's natural gas network. In both reports, it finds that electrification is the cheapest option for decarbonizing buildings. As for the statement about jobs, a study by UCLA found that electrifying California's buildings over the next 25 years would create 8 times as many jobs as may be lost in the gas industry, supporting an additional 100,000 full-time jobs in construction, manufacturing, and the energy sector each year. Oregon would expect to see job numbers for our state proportional to our population and housing stock. Also, would just like to say, as a young person going to the job market, we don't want jobs for a dying industry that is polluting our earth. We want clean, green union jobs. This PR campaign is a desperate attempt by natural gas utilities to delay their inevitable decline. In a time where our leaders seem to keep failing to defend their constituents, it would set a powerful example for Eugene to join an all-electric movement. And I don't have much time left, but I'd like to include that we have to start seeing these issues such as housing justice, climate justice, and racial justice as intertwined. The city's continuation of criminalization of homelessness is wasting money and perpetuating the problem. The need to address homelessness at its core and provide low barrier, affordable housing is already an urgent issue and will become increasingly urgent as the climate worsens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sophia. Next is Marshall, followed by Satya Ginsburg. Marshall, please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Venice and City Council members. I'm a homeowner in Ward 4. And my name is Marshall Chad Dannon, and I am the third generation owner of Marshall's Heating, Cooling, Insulation, and Fireplaces. We are a locally owned and operated business. I wrote a script for this testimony tonight, but I'm going to go a little bit off script after hearing all my community members' testimony. And I just want to make a note here that Marshall's has been in business since 1948. And we were one of the first companies to start installing high efficiency electric heat pumps in this community. And we work with all local utilities to install high efficiency heating systems, most of them electric heat pumps. And we've been doing this for over 30 years with local utilities. So Marshall's has been serving Lane County since 1948 when my grandparents started the business in Springfield. Marshall's is in over 50 homes a day, the majority of which are located in Eugene. Marshall's sells and installs high efficiency appliances such as heat pumps, furnaces, fireplaces, inserts, and water heaters. We sell approximately 50% electric and 50% gas systems. We do this because our customers want a choice and because not everyone can efficiently heat with electricity and not everyone can afford high efficiency electric heating systems. We install and connect gas lines to gas appliances that are super high efficiency at the source, upwards of 98% efficiency. They are so efficient that the primary byproduct that we vent is water through a PVC condensation drain. I am concerned because the conversations the city is having around the regulation of natural gas will be far-reaching and have long-lasting effects. For example, will the community continue to have energy choices for their heating and cooking appliances? Will households looking to replace their old inefficient wood-burning fireplaces be able to do so with high-efficiency gas inserts? And if they don't have natural gas available, will they be using propane?
Thank you, Marshall. Your time has concluded. Next is Satya, followed by phone ending in 940.
Hello. Thank you for providing me an opportunity to testify this evening. My name is Satya Ginsburg. I live in Ward 3 and I'm a student at South Eugene High School. I have lived the majority of my life in Eugene and have been lucky enough to grow up with access to the splendid nature that surrounds it. My connection with this nature has been a major part of my life and continues to be one of the primary ways that I connect with my family and support my mental health. As I have gotten older, it has been devastating to begin to understand the impacts of climate change on the future of our natural surroundings, as well as my own. Over the last couple of summers, I've watched massive forest fires burn through many places that are dear to me and displace countless people. These conditions will only continue to worsen if steps are not taken to combat climate change. It is difficult to consider this as a youth and be forced to wonder if I will be able to live a full life or have a family before I've even graduated high school. It is because of this that I and many others are counting on you to ban the construction of all fossil fuel infrastructure in the city of Eugene, transition all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030, and to levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other polluting corporations to create a fund to transition low-income and marginalized communities from fracked gas to electric appliances and to retrofit homes to increase efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you, Satya. Next is phone ending in 940, followed by Linda Kelly. Phone ending in 940, please unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Sean Bassaraba. I'm a Lane County resident and a member of Operating Engineers Local 701. I'm a journeyman operator who works on the natural gas distribution lines throughout Eugene, helping ensure the safe and reliable transmission of natural gas to thousands of homes and businesses in our region. I spent years as an apprentice learning to perform my job safely and responsibly, and I take pride in the fact that my years of training have provided myself and my family with a great career and a family wage and full benefits. Every day, thousands of professionals just like me work hard to ensure that our community has the most reliable and technologically advanced energy grid available. An energy grid that is ready for renewable energy so that we can make the switch to greener alternatives sooner rather than later. An energy grid that is resilient so that our customers and neighbors don't find themselves in the cold when winter storm strikes. I'm here tonight to urge the City Council to continue working with Northwest Natural on the franchise agreement so that we can all prepare for a better future together through hard work and cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Next is Linda Kelly, followed by Selena Blick.
Good evening, councilors, Mayor Venus. My name is Linda Kelly. I live in Ward 1. And thank you for taking some testimony regarding the Northwest Natural Franchise Agreement. So we're currently stuck in a system that has become increasingly focused on short-term profits, as you know, ignoring or minimizing any other factors that affect our lives. A deer in the headlights reaction will not work for our future survival. We must make choices now with a future-looking perspective. This country has been built on the basis of American ingenuity. It's been our proud proclamation to the world. We have a choice. We can either choose to live in fear with increasing factionalism and infighting, or we can do what we claim to be best at and move towards creative solutions. Industry will and always has resisted change, but does make changes and innovations when pushed. So far, Northwest Natural has paid lip service, but offered no real action on negotiations in good faith. So thank you very much for putting a hold on that. If council does decide to go ahead with an agreement, I would like to suggest a 5-year maximum and a requirement that Northwest Natural shows what significant progress they have actually made in decarbonizing their product before any longer agreements are considered. I think that would be practical. The other request I would like to make is no new infrastructure now until we really see what is going on. We can't live on promises, we need proof. So the good news is the energy terrain is rapidly changing. it would be very unwise to sign any agreement for any duration at this point. A few exciting examples I'd like to share with you. One is I've been reading up a lot on geothermal energy, which is beginning to really take off as a viable baseload. Oregon's identified as one of the primary sources on the planet for good geothermal. The techniques and skills that are currently used in natural gas extraction can be directly used for this clean, endless energy source. And let me emphasize the fact that it's baseload, which is very important. The water that's used in this process does not have the problem that fracking does. They don't use chemicals, they use water. And investments in this energy have really increased in the last few years. Also, river-based heat pumps are another thing I'd like you to look into and
Thank you. Your time has concluded. Next is Selena, followed by Seneca Burgess.
Hi, my name is Selena Blick, and I'm here today with 350 Eugene and our Fossil Free Eugene Coalition. First, I want to thank you all for standing up to Northwest Natural and not allowing them to continue to hold our city hostage through insincere negotiations. Your decision to let the franchise agreement lapse is not taken lightly, and it means a lot to me as a young person that you're willing to prioritize climate action and the health of our community over business as usual. Thank you. The next step we must take is banning new fracked gas infrastructure and disallowing cash incentives for switching to gas appliances. It is clear that we must transition off of fossil fuels as quickly as possible. They are harmful to our planet, our future, and our health. And this past week has proved that they are not even reliable when people need them the most. What happened in Texas was a result of climate change caused by fossil fuels, and their natural gas systems failed to keep people warm and safe. And now the gas companies are hiking prices, further disenfranchising the people they claim to care about. Continuing to rely on fracked gas only digs us deeper into this hole, causing more and more extreme weather only to have gas appliances fail and the companies throw us under the bus. And while we might not be able to dig ourselves out of this hole today, what we can do is stop digging. It simply doesn't make sense to continue to allow new gas infrastructure to be built when this transition needed to happen yesterday. And no, renewable natural gas is not the answer to our problems. First of all, the CEO of Northwest Natural lied to all of us when he wrote in a Register Guard that there is enough potential renewable natural gas supply to meet the needs of all residential gas customers in our state alone. Based on the data from the Oregon Department of Energy, this simply isn't true. RNG can meet maybe 20% of our needs at most. Also, we shouldn't be trying to increase our production of RNG because it's coming from factory farms and landfills. Those are bad things that we should also be getting rid of, not expanding. So, in summary, thank you for not renewing the franchise agreement with Northwest Natural. Don't let them keep building new infrastructure, and please don't listen to their lies about RNG. Thank you.
Thank you, Selena. Next is Seneca, followed by Fusi.
Good evening. My name is Seneca Burgess, and I pay rent in South Eugene. I'm pleased to say that this is my first time testifying at a city council meeting. Thank you for your decision to walk away from the negotiations with Northwest Natural over the franchise agreement as they currently stand, and for holding the corporation accountable to the desires of your constituency by allowing the current agreement to lapse. As a young person of color from a working class family, the climate crisis is close to my heart. Growing up, I've seen firsthand the impacts of environmental injustice and climate change-driven disaster in my community, and the stress that is imposed on marginalized and low-income people already struggling to survive. I'm testifying on behalf of the Fossil Free Eugene Coalition. We are advocating for a just transition to renewable energy and working towards the electrification of buildings as they provide a clear mechanism for dramatically reducing greenhouse gas emissions of our city, our state, and our region. Not only is transitioning to renewables imperative to meeting our climate goals, but it will also provide benefits for our local economy, public health and safety, and mark a first step for Eugene to combat environmental injustices in our community. We know that Northwest Natural intends to impose any additional costs on customers, even if not legally required to do so. The agreement should not permit Northwest Natural to avoid accountability for its role in the climate crisis by imposing additional cost burdens on customers who already face the burden of the health and safety risks of natural gas in their homes. In addition, any fee investment terms should be made in collaboration with the most affected communities and in consideration of community needs. The city should not determine what the best way to spend funds designed to account for the climate impact of Northwest Natural's operations without receiving input from the communities most impacted. Before renewing negotiations with Northwest Natural, it is imperative that the city signal its dedication to this effort by passing ordinances to ban the construction of new gas infrastructure in the city and to ban the use of cash incentives by the corporation to compel residents to install gas appliances. We support you to use this opportunity to start a process to completely decarbonize our city and equitably move our community into a new decade.
Thank you. Your time has concluded. Next is Fusey, followed by Linda Carnine. Fusey, please unmute. Okay, we're going to move on to Linda Carnine, and I'll come back to Fusey. Linda, please unmute. Yeah, let's move on. Linda, are you there? Okay, we'll go to Eloise Parrish-Mueller, followed by Brandon Cotton.
Hi, my name is Eloise Parrish-Mueller, and I'm a lifelong resident of Ward 1 in Eugene and a member of the Sunrise Eugene organization. I'm testifying today in solidarity with the Fossil for Eugene Coalition, a growing collaborative movement of organizations and civilian groups working on social, racial, and climate justice, organized labor, tenant rights, and more, dedicated to seeing our community transition to renewable and healthy building energy in a just and timely way. I want to start with wholeheartedly thanking you for your decision to walk away from negotiations with Northwest Natural over the franchise agreement as they currently stand, and for standing up for the needs and well-being of our community and our climate action goals by not caving to pressure from a fossil fuel corporation that is unwilling to bear responsibility for the consequences of their actions. I'm sure anyone who's been involved with public advocacy in any way can recognize the frustration that can sometimes arise when you feel like you keep sharing the same message and information with public officials and you don't see any action. So it's really encouraging to see the City Council taking to heart the public engagement and concern about this issue and acting on it. Thank you. As the city continues to commit to leading on transitioning our community to renewable energy, it is imperative to start taking action through binding regulatory measures to ensure that we are on the path to meet our CRO goals. Before renewing negotiations with the corporation, if they are renewed, the city needs to pass ordinances to restrict the construction of new gas infrastructure and disallow cash incentives to switch homes from electric to polluting gas appliances. Eugene also needs to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030 and levy a fee on Northwest Natural and other climate polluters to create a fund to transition low-income and historically marginalized communities from frac gas to electric appliances and retrofit homes to increase efficiency. These are not extreme measures. They are a rational and just response to the climate crisis and the injustices it exacerbates. With regards to concerns about jobs and costs, I want to highlight the study others have mentioned that found that electrification has the potential to create 8 times as many jobs as may be lost in the gas industry. and also say that it's the responsibility of our government and society to ensure that clean energy is accessible and affordable for all through regulation and investing in sustainable jobs and sustainability solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eloise. Next is Brandon, followed by Sunrise Eugene.
Hello, Mayor Venice, City Councilors, and City Manager Meadery. My name is Brandon. I attend Sheldon High School in Ward 5. I'll try and keep this short and sweet out of respect for both your time in order to allow others to voice their opinions. I am speaking here today to ask you to walk away from negotiations with Northwest Natural for all of the reasons mentioned before by my fellow concerned citizens. I live in Eugene. I have lived in Eugene for most of my life and have enjoyed the many benefits of our area. I would hate to see such a beautiful landscape be affected by climate change, but sadly, climate change has already started to reach us. By walking away from these negotiations, you will be fulfilling a small part of your duty to protect younger generations from the devastating effects of climate change. In closing, I would like to remind you of the long-term impacts this decision will have and the importance of your unbiased consideration. Also, I heard one of my fellow citizens mention that this decision will have long-lasting impacts on the community. I would like to remind them that this is sort of the point, to create long-lasting positive change in our community, and I, along with many others here, believe a good way of doing this is walking away from Northwest Natural negotiations. Finally, I would like to thank Mark Gissner for his years of dutiful service. I may not have been aware of your service in my younger years, but I must say you seem like a really nice guy. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Brandon. Next is Tai, followed by Jesse.
Thank you, Mayor Venice, City Councilors, and City Manager Meadery for the opportunity to share. My name is Tai Williams. I've lived for the past 23 years in the wards of Councilors Clark and Surratt, and I reside on unceded Kalapuya land. Also, as someone with fond memories of being part of the North Eugene High School Theater Department, I loved Councilor Surratt's shout out of the Zoomed production. And on a more somber note, as a River Road resident, I'm horrified by the hate crimes and hope that you will use all of the actions at your disposal to prevent the continuation of these harms to our community. This past August, I was working on the fire lines of the largest wildfire in Colorado state history. When I woke up at 4:30 a.m. to get to work, I was sitting in a valley and I could see a glow on two hillsides. On one side, I could see the glow of the wildfire. And on the other hillside, I could see flares from the gas wellheads from fracked gas infrastructure that was being built in that area immediately after we had built line around it. We built line and then camped 50 yards from a gas storage facility that was actively transporting gas out to private gas companies like Northwest Natural. As we are looking to understand the question of what to do about the franchise agreement, I urge you to consider who will face the brunt of these impacts. I know that there are a lot of concerns about jobs and about where we're going to go from here. And as someone who will have jobs created by Northwest Natural, I would like to say I'm not appreciative of it. I urge you to consider that if the expansion of this gas infrastructure continues, we will continue to lock in exponentially increasing climate disaster, worsen the wildfires, and we will simply have no future. As I like the phrase, there is no economy on a dead planet. If we continue to allow the expansion of gas infrastructure, we will be locking ourselves in for climate disaster, and we will be making our lives unlivable for my future and for the futures of many folks testifying. So I just want to appreciate that you have a grave decision before you, but you have the opportunity to make a really powerful choice. And I urge you to stop the expansion of gas infrastructure in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Tai. Next is Jesse, followed by Kelsey Zlever.
Mayor Venice, City Councilors, and City Manager Meadery. Yes, thank you for providing me this opportunity for public testimony. My name is Jesse. I reside in Ward 1, Kalapuya land, and I work with Sunrise Eugene.
I'm also an LCC graduate and a member of the basketball program there. I'm horrified by the racist actions throughout this community's history and present and urge you to do everything you can to stop it. Thank you for your decision to walk away from negotiations with Northwest Natural over the franchise agreement as they currently stand, and for holding the corporation accountable to the desires of your constituency, the people of Eugene, in regards to greenhouse gas reductions by allowing the current agreement to lapse. I am 23 years old and raised in this community. I love this place. I love the plants, people, and the magnificent ecosystems here, which have been tended and supported for thousands of years by Kalapuya people. The future of this land and life is on the line. My generation is coming into what we call adulthood, and perhaps the last decade in which we have a chance to achieve a livable future for my generation and all generations after. The tragic effects of the fossil fuel-caused climate crisis are accelerating all around us. And in Texas, a natural gas corporation celebrated increased profits as millions were left without power and natural gas infrastructure proved itself unreliable. You have the opportunity to take a stand for our future, for our present, and for your constituents. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain by moving away from fossil fuels. Workers must be at the forefront of the just transition we are pushing for. As highlighted earlier, a study by UCLA found that electrifying California's buildings over the next 25 years would create 8 times as many jobs as may be lost in the gas industry. Oregon would expect to see jobs numbers for our state proportional to our population and housing stock. So it is the city's legal and moral responsibility to do everything in its power to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in line with the recommendations of the best available science, and invest in a just transition for all of the residents of our city. As such, in addition to renegotiating our franchise agreement with Northwest Natural and banning the construction of new infrastructure, I'm requesting that the City Council pass a series of ordinances to mandate the transition of all utilities in the city to 100% renewable energy by 2030.
Thank you. Your time has concluded. Next is Kelsey, followed by Tom Walter.
Mayor Vinnis, City Councilors, and City Manager Maderi, thank you for providing this opportunity for public testimony. My name is Kelsey Slavor, and I reside in Ward 1 on unceded Kalapuya land. I'm testifying on behalf of the Fossil Free Eugene Coalition and want to thank you for your decision to walk away from negotiations with Northwest Natural over the franchise agreement as they currently stand, and for honoring the desires of your constituency, the people of Eugene, by allowing the current agreement to lapse. As we have seen in this last year alone, climate crisis is unfolding across almost every region in our country, as well as abroad, and the regularity of these impacts will only increase as time goes on due to ongoing GHG emissions. Between our own wildfires and the devastating freeze currently wreaking havoc in Texas, I'm not sure what other evidence we need for a swift and critical decrease in our nation's reliance on fossil fuels. Fossil Free Eugene is part of a growing movement in Eugene and across the region, advocating for a just transition to renewable energy. Not only is transitioning to renewables imperative to meeting our climate goals, but it will also provide benefits for our local economy, public health and safety, and mark a first step for Eugene to combat environmental injustices in our community. I therefore support the city's position that the new franchise agreement should not be granted without carbon-related terms. This is an opportunity for Eugene to set a template for the region and the country as to how to protect its rights of way, and we should seize the opportunity to pave that way forward for other municipalities to follow our leadership. I would continue with the rest of my comment. However, I feel like it's been summarized pretty well by everyone who's come before me, so I yield the rest of my time to everyone else who's left to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Next is Tom Walter, followed by Alexandria York.
Hello, I'm Tom Walter. I live in Ward 5. So thank you, Mayor and Councilman, for allowing me to speak. I have been a home builder in the area for 30 years. I'm a huge advocate for natural gas heating, cooking, water heating, and fireplaces in homes. I need you to focus on weather in our fine city. Just in my short career, in 1994, 96, 2004, 2008, 14, 16, 17, and then 2019, we had ice, wind, or snow events that led to significant power outages. for thousands of Eugene residents. My customers love the fact that our natural gas fireplaces keep their homes livable when the power is out. I cannot imagine selling new homes to people in this climate without an alternative energy source or an alternative source of heat. New home buyers will rightfully demand it. Gas is super clean burning. It's convenient, it's affordable, it's efficient, it's not messy. The alternative is a wood burning stove or fireplace. Growing up in Eugene in the 70s, I can attest that the choking pollution from wood stoves up and down my street was not desirable. 100% of the 150 houses I have built over the last 20 years have had a gas fireplace, a gas cooktop, and a gas water heater. The decision to limit the city of Eugene from using their preferred option to heat air, water, and food is lunacy. Further, it will lead to the death of people who are trying to find a second source of heat in some future storm event. See 14 deaths in Texas just last week from carbon monoxide poisoning. Every protracted power outage has a tragic consequence. Eliminating natural gas is not good public policy. It's quite the opposite. I cannot believe it's being considered. If it's such a great idea, let's put it to a public vote. I have always believed you can use natural gas to create a much cleaner air. 95% of the CO2 on Earth is produced by natural processes, not by man. CO2 was only named as a pollutant in 2009. Prior to that, in my career, it was considered to be inert. Coal and oil, when burned, produce 50 times more nitrogen oxide than natural gas and 2,000 times more sulfur.
Thank you. Your time has concluded. Next is Alexandria York, followed by Fusey.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, if you could speak a little closer to your mic, please.
Yeah. My name's Alex York, and it's my first time speaking to council. And just over the urging from Mayor Vinnis at the last council meeting for home and property owners to step up and allow unhoused community members to camp on their property alarmed me. Although every situation is different, many unhoused community members need more care than the vague sanitation that Mayor Vinnis mentioned to make this a viable option. My own personal experience has led me to speak out as my own sister suffered from mental illness that created extremely dangerous situations, which made even her own family unable to house her. And the stories that have been echoed in the recent obituaries published by the Eugene Weekly. My sister needed professional care and people who were trained to manage her complex illness for everyone's safety. The majority of us, myself included, do not have the skills required to navigate the myriad of potentialities dealing with this complex issue. Mental illness is just a piece of this, along with the pandemic and rising housing prices, escalating climate events, trauma, and addiction. This is a crisis, and it requires so much more sensitivity, funding for non-police services, and resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandria. Next is Lydia Scott. Oh, I'm sorry. Next is Fusey, followed by Lydia Scott.
Hi there. Sorry about the technical difficulty earlier. It's nice to see you all, city councilors and mayor. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give testimony today. My Zoom name says I'm Fusey, but my name is Madeline Cowan, and I live in Ward 3 on unceded occupied Kalapuya land. And I work with Firefighters United for Safety, Ethics, and Ecology, or FUSE. We are a local nonprofit organization that works closely with wildland firefighters and communities impacted by wildfire. And we are a part of the Fossil Free Eugene campaign. This wildfire season, our neighbors up the Mackenzie River suffered from the Holiday Farm fire. And here in Eugene, many were impacted by smoke and from fear of the flames reaching our city limits. And across the entire West, wildfire ignitions spread at tremendous speeds and grew to enormous sizes that overwhelmed the ability of firefighters to put them out. As Tai said earlier, who was a wildland firefighter, climate chaos has truly sparked a wildfire crisis in this country and around the world. And we know that fracked gas and fossil fuels are exacerbating this climate crisis. And this is endangering the people and communities that are close to us and around the world, and wildland firefighters who live in Eugene and beyond. UZ supports the city's position that the new franchise agreement should not be granted without carbon-related terms. This is an opportunity for Eugene to be a leader among municipalities in utilizing its authority over its right-of-way, and Eugene should seize the opportunity to pave the way forward for other municipalities to follow this leadership. As more fossil fuels are burned in the city, it adds to the climate crisis, and this increases wildfire risks and hazards. Wildland firefighters and low-income community residents are going to bear the biggest brunt of these increased fire risks and hazards in the face of the climate crisis. So I'm here today to advocate for the city of Eugene to take bold action to mitigate the worst impacts of the climate crisis. And I expect that with this bold city leadership, we will meet the goals that will satisfy everyone in the city of Eugene and beyond, for the safety and future of our communities and wildland firefighters alike.
Thank you. Your time has concluded. Next is Lydia Scott, followed by Ellen Rifkin. Lydia, please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay,
yes,
great. Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Lydia, and I'm speaking tonight because I attended the earlier meeting this month in support of Fossil Free Eugene, which I still support. We need to actively and aggressively move away from fossil fuels. Eugene has a climate action plan, and that only matters if action is taken. People's livelihoods are absolutely an important piece of this, and that means new opportunities for jobs that align with what the city claims are its climate recovery values need to be created and supported. These jobs exist. It's a matter of priorities and accountability. I appreciate hearing many of you talking about and supporting accountability of Northwest Natural and valuing the public right-of-way. I'm not normally a public speaker, but I felt like I needed to come speak tonight because in the last meeting, an issue was brought up with Councillor Clark's connection with white supremacy in our community. I have to admit, I did not know about these allegations or the validity of them, but what I did witness was the dismissal of them by city council members. I hear you all tonight speaking on the importance of addressing issues of racism and hate crimes, but that was not the case in the last meeting. I'm not saying it was intentional, but the way it came off was dismissive. We know racism is a huge issue here, and it seems that at every opportunity as leaders in our community, the city council needs to speak and show us that there will be absolutely no tolerance of racism on the city council and in our community. Even if councilors do not condone racism, that was not conveyed in the last meeting. It is great you are doing that now, but it comes off a little bit like damage control. There's an issue with our governance having an attitude of even if we wanted to, there's nothing we can do. That allows systemic racism to continue to exist. If there is no system in place to remove racist and racist policies from city council, then the issue is that there needs to be one. The community has spoken, the time has come. Racism has continued to plague our community for way too long. We live in times where bold action is required. You all chose to run for office in this time, so please take bold stands and follow up with bold action. I also support the long overdue declaration to declare racism a public health crisis and address it as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Next is Ellen, followed by Lena.
I'm from Ward 7. Thank you, counselors who have spoken out against the most recent racist incidents in our town, designed to instill fear and protect the whiteness of our community. Their point is to drive away Black people. These events, though, are not only horrible acts by people lacking kindness. They are symptoms of a problem of indifference and denial in our mainstream institutions. We all contribute in varying degrees to widespread complacence about the overwhelmingly white character of our city, complacence about the absence of the skills, knowledge, and life experience of vibrant communities of color, whose communal wisdom about survival is very much needed as we face the desperate questions of our time. Statutory action focusing on acts of intimidation may make a little difference, but this only addresses one small piece of a systemic problem. Given the history of police violence, increasing police powers in any area needs to be carefully considered and other ways to achieve justice explored. Counselor Ye may be on the right track when she notes that an equity lens needs to be applied to every responsibility that the council has in shaping the character of our city. Rejecting a fossil-free Eugene, for example, is one way to choose business as usual and to view as less than urgent the health of families of color. I also hope to see the council walk its outraged talk about recent hate incidents when the ad hoc committee on police policy submits its recommendations. You will also have the chance to walk your talk by having the courage to reallocate substantial funds away from police and into desperately needed human services and programs, including unhoused individuals and families. These actions are fundamental to creating a Eugene that is safe, welcoming, and healthy for all of us. It will take not only you, the council, but all of us as determined citizens to make these changes, but you are our leaders, and I urge you to take leadership.
Thank you, Ellen. I need to check in with Lena and Linda Carnine. You had your hands raised and they're no longer raised. I just want to make sure you get the opportunity to speak. So please raise your hands if you would like to speak. And next we will go to Nate, followed by Misty Frost.
Good evening, Mayor Venice, members of City Council. My name is Nate Stokes. I'm a member of the Operating Engineers Local 701 and a proud journeyman operator who completed Local 701's Union Apprenticeship Program. As a young father, the apprenticeship program changed my life and provided me and my family with an amazing opportunity for a rewarding career without any of the crippling student debt that most young people face these days. Infrastructure work provides excellent family wage jobs and many more benefits to our community. The majority of my career has been spent building major infrastructure projects, providing people in the Pacific Northwest with safe and efficient transportation and clean water. We need to focus on our infrastructure now more than ever. Our local families and our climate depend on it. As I warned last time in my comments, we just experienced what can happen when you put all your eggs in one basket. A failed to invest in local infrastructure when a winter storm left many communities without power and without heat for days. Upgrading our existing infrastructure is the fastest way to continue the transition to 100% renewable energy today. Running around shutting down entire sectors of the energy industry with the hope that we might someday find a way to replace them later with renewable alternatives is barely even a plan, as definitely not the solution. We need to take action now so that we can continue the shift to clean, renewable energy for our entire community and not just the ones that can afford to pay premium now. Operating engineers have built most of the renewable energy facilities that now power our upgraded grid and deliver renewable power to homes and businesses across Oregon. It's time to help us do the same with natural gas. It's time to work together to continue the progress we have already made. I am here tonight to urge City Council to continue working with Northwest Natural on the franchise agreement so that we can continue to prepare for a better, greener future together, sooner, through smart infrastructure management. We must work to improve and regulate, not obliterate our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. So I have a correction. We are gonna have Linda next and Lena will follow. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Hear me? I want to tell you all, you're amazing. You really need to, while I'm talking a little bit, just stand up, take a few deep breaths. This is very, very long and very intense. So if you can, just take a little break, whatever works for you. You know, and I know many of you, I've talked to you already, and I so appreciate your listening and your concern. I want to thank you all for your attempts so far, but you know, I think we're only reaching, with all the proposals, all the plans, and all the things that are in place right now, about 5% of the unhoused right now we have in our city. And I'm here to ask again, we need sanctioned places for these people to go, with the facilities of trash and sanitation is critical. We have, and Emily, I appreciate your nodding. We've got to find some places soon. There are people dying, and even though we've been blessed not to have dealt with this horrible weather that the rest of the country's had, we have so much hypothermia here. And our people need sanctioned locations with a trash pickup, and they also need to feel like they're not criminals. And basically, the ordinances you have on the books make them criminals because they have no sanctioned places to go. I just want your really hearty work on this too. And I know you've got a loaded plate, but gosh, there are a lot of people that really will appreciate it. And the way to go, the way home, wants to help you in any way we can. Thank you so much for all your service. Bye.
Thank you, Linda. Next is Lena.
Oh, hi, thank you. I'm Lena Houston Davison. I live in Ward 1 and on Calapooya land, and I don't really have a script here. Before I forget, I wanted to say thank you to Mark Glissner for his work. I've sat in, thanks to Zoom, on a few of the civilian review boards, and that's important work and it needs to continue. And I really hope you find somebody good to take his place. That's such an important position. And my concern, I'm totally outraged by all of the hate activity that's going on around here. I experience in my family and people, it's heartbreaking to me. But one of my concerns is in our law enforcement and in our government, to make sure we root out anybody that does have white nationalist ties or ties to hate groups, especially in the hiring of police officers. And I don't know how we're going to be assured that that's happening, but that's really important to me. And that's one of my concerns of part of what we need to do, what needs to happen. As far as the natural gas goes, I'm a low-income homeowner, and I pay a mortgage to a bank, but I'm on fixed income. And, I am very much in favor of transition away from fossil fuels. We need renewable resources, renewable energy, but I'm also concerned about the resiliency and the reliability of our energy grid. I heard putting all the eggs in one basket. I do have natural gas as well, and I really appreciate when the power's out that I have an alternative source. That's important to me. I'm concerned that there won't be enough of a fund to justly transition. As a homeowner, I make not enough money to qualify for rebates or assistance to do solar. I have a perfect situation for solar. I can't afford to do it because I'm too poor, but I don't make enough money to qualify. So there's a lot of roadblocks for people to be able to transition to more more renewable resources, and that needs to be looked at. Having better access for lower income people to have electric cars. It's really just not accessible for a lot of people. And so that needs to be considered. And putting in underground lights power when it's possible, like you didn't do on Willamette Street.
And thank you, Lena. That concludes your time. And Mayor, that concludes the public forum for those who signed up prior to the 7:35 deadline.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, that caught me by surprise. I didn't realize we were at that point. So I just want to begin by, that was a full night of testimony, and we made you wait a long time before you even got a chance to testify, and very much appreciate all of the climate activists coming out again to talk to us. This is as you know, this is a work in progress, and there are a lot of moving pieces. I did want to comment to one of the early, I think it was Maisie, who said, to her knowledge, we haven't done anything on climate since 2014. And so I just want to say that we actually have done a lot of work since 2014, and a lot of it is encapsulated on our website. The Climate Action Plan is full of action items, and many of them are in motion. And there's a long list of what the city has done in its internal operations. So we are doing a lot of work, and recognize that we have a long way to go, and that this discussion with Northwest Natural is particularly challenging. But so thank you. I will not delay that, because I can see that we have some other councilors wishing to speak. And so I will turn to Councilor Ye.
Thanks, Mayor. You actually reminded me of a comment I almost forgot to make. I wanted to thank Brandon and Olivia and Maisie, who all called in as Sheldon High School students. I believe Maisie mentioned that you guys are from a group or a club there, and I just want to make myself available. I would love to come and hear your concerns and talk about what the city is doing and what we want to be doing in the future, and all of that with you guys, if that's something you're interested in. So please reach out to me via email. I'd be happy to talk to you.
All right, Councilor Keating.
Yeah, it seems like Sheldon beat South tonight. You know, it's usually South Eugene steps up. So a call to action to all the South Eugene High School climate activists. Sheldon beat you to the punch tonight. To echo Councilor Ye, thank you to the youth activists, and Mayor Venus, thank you for pointing out and highlighting the wide array of climate advocates who regularly have been visiting council, not just in my short time on council, but in months and years leading up to. I appreciate your continued advocacy and activism and attention to detail. And Linda, again, I said at the beginning of tonight's meeting, Linda Carnine, thank you for the invitation to visit Washington Jefferson Park. I hope it's not the last time I visit. I hope to be a helpful partner many, many more times. As Councilor Groves pointed out, there is a real lack of heat and electricity at these sanctioned camps, and certainly at the unsanctioned ones as well. And so I want to draw attention to a conversation, Mayor, that South Eugene neighbors had over the weekend on Saturday evening. There was a lot of vitriol on the Nextdoor app about unhoused neighbors residing at 40th and Donald at a vacant abandoned bank. And so a community member stepped up and hosted a Zoom meeting to talk about the unhoused situation and what we as neighbors can do to help. And I'm pleased to say that though you read online one thing, the folks who actually show up, the 15 folks who showed up on a Saturday evening at 6 o'clock, came with solutions. And they came armed, ready, and willing to not just illustrate they care, but ready to do something. And so thank you to those folks who stepped up with a whole breadth of great ideas that we've already been sharing in committee, and I want to continue to share in public and private and help see them come to fruition. But thank you to everyone who showed up tonight and who continues to show up to provide testimony at council and give your voice to a cause larger than all of us. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors wishing to comment? Thank you all again. Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. Thank you all again for your comments and for your patience. That was a long night, and we're not quite done, council. So I'm closing the public forum, and we actually have a public hearing tonight. So, oops, my screen just went blank, but I'm wondering, city manager, you want to introduce this?
Yes, I'm totally happy to. So tonight's public hearing is one that we do every year, and it's on the withdrawal of annexed property from special districts. So the purpose of this public hearing is to hear any comments on proposed withdrawal of annexed properties. The 2021 batch contains 4 annexations approved by City Council in 2020 for a total of 4 tax lots. So that's kind of how the rhythm goes. You approve them through the year, and then when we get to this time of the year, they come to be withdrawn. And from what I understand, I don't believe we've received any comments on this.
Okay. Thank you. And I realize I got this out of order. So this is the moment. If for those wishing to testify during this public hearing, please raise your virtual hand or press *9 if you're joining by phone. The request will be accepted until the first person begins speaking. When you're called on, please speak, give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward, if known. You'll have 3 minutes to comment. Actually, it looks like we do have someone. A timer will appear on the screen to indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of the 3 minutes. And so I now open the public hearing and I turn it over to the moderator.
Thank you, Mayor. We have one participant for the public hearing, Misty Frost.
Hello, good evening, Mayor Venus and city councilors. My name is Misty Frost. I live on Corliss Lane in Ward 7. I'm on the board of directors for El Rapa and River Road Community Organization and co-chair of the Emergency Prep Group and Social Justice Committee with River Road. My only comment about the annexation is to please consider removing fees regarding those that would be affected by annexation. This would be an unjust burden to families, low-income homes. And so I ask you when considering this to take low-income families into consideration how this would affect them. We all want folks to have access to the library and other, positive benefits to being part of the city of Eugene. But as you know, the River Road area is just complicated, and folks are confused and need more information. But mostly, it's the financial impact that would have on them. I just want to use my remaining time to thank Claire Surratt for joining us during the Black Lives Matter rally last Friday. That was very moving, but I expected to see more of you there. You all should be there every single time, showing your faces. Our BIPOC communities need you now more than ever to show up for them and be leaders and send a strong message that hate and intolerance is not wanted in our communities. The Eugene Police have a pretty large budget, and hopefully you will consider moving some of that budget into ensuring that our communities of color are protected. And perhaps an idea would be to allocate some funds to hate crime victims, and if they need repairs made to their property that have been vandalized, they could have some support in that way. And also, please don't cut funding to neighborhood organizations. We are first responders for our communities. If the lights go out, we're there with blankets. We're the first ones there. If there's a hate crime, we're a shoulder to cry on and provide support. We do all this work out of our hearts, as you all do, volunteering as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. And Mayor, that concludes the public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. Now close that public hearing. Are there any comments? Oh, looks like Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thanks, Misty, for her testimony. I know that it was in addition to what the issue was there, but I appreciated very much the idea of a fund to help repair. I hope that's part of our work session on this issue. I think that's a great idea, and I, for one, would support it. So thanks.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Misty for her patience and perseverance and testifying as well. And I think with that, we are adjourned. Thank you so much. Good night.